welcome to hey everyone, welcome to Validate Me, which is a podcast where me and my dad both show each other something that we really enjoy in hopes that the other person will enjoy it and validate us.
Yeah, so we're doing a lot of media introductions,
yes.
Right? So each 2 weeks now, we take turns. We can take about 4 hours, is kind of a rule of thumb, of time you can consume for the other person. So we watch movies, play video games, comic books. We could probably even read a book at some point. We'd have to schedule that out because that would take longer than 4 hours probably. But things that we love,
me?
And we want the other person to. I know me. I know how long it takes me longer than 4 hours to read a book. So I get to show Presley a bunch of stuff I loved when I was roughly her age-ish, maybe. Woo. And then she gets to show me a bunch of stuff that she loves now that I'm totally, in most cases, blissfully unaware of.
Yes.
And then we talk about it for about an hour.
Yeah.
Every couple of weeks.
Well, usually more than an hour.
We'll see.
But
Yeah. So this was mine.
Also, we end up talking about Lost somehow.
We always talk about Lost. We have to always talk about Lost. I think there's a Lost connection maybe even in this conversation, but we'll leave that. We'll see if that pops up. Yeah, I think it was in my notes. This was my week to assign. And so since it was Christmas, I assigned Presley 2 of my favorite Christmas movies.
Which we both watched after Christmas.
We watched one of them before.
Die Hard
we watched Die Hard before, and we watched It's a Wonderful Life after.
And then I watched them both again.
And then
Christmas.
Because of the 2 week thing, it was kind of cool because we got to watch them once and just kind of enjoy the movies and just chill out and watch them. And then we each independently watched them again and took some notes. I hope.
And that was really cool. Yes, I took notes.
And so that we're more prepared to have the conversation. So we didn't. We talked about this a little bit when I was assigning it to her in the last podcast, but these aren't necessarily my top favorite Christmas movies. They're way up there.
Yeah, but I've seen a lot of his favorite Christmas movies. She's
seen some of the other ones that we would have done, and so Die Hard just has sort of the eternal debate of if it's a Christmas movie or not. And then It's a Wonderful Life is it's top of most people, like official organizations' list of Christmas movies. Yeah. It's top of the list for a ton of people, and we'll dig in that a little bit. I kind of feel like going Die Hard first, if you don't mind.
That's how it is.
Because a lot of my sound bites actually come Die Hard.
Die Hard has really good sound bites.
So let's start overall, big picture before we dive into a bunch of specifics here. What did you think about Die Hard?
I thought it was a good movie. I am on the fence about whether it's a Christmas movie or not.
How can you possibly be on the fence about whether
because I said it wasn't a Christmas movie when I watched it for the first time.
Listen.
Now I have a machine gun. Ho, ho, ho.
Look, ho, ho, ho. He says ho. He doesn't say it in a super jolly way.
That doesn't mean...
That's not the jolliest ho, ho, ho I've ever heard. But that's a ho, ho, ho. And look, even better.
It's Christmas, Theo. It's the time of miracles.
Look.
It's Christmas. But because it takes place on Christmas doesn't mean it's a movie about Christmas.
But he's talking about a Christmas miracle. And there were at least 2 Christmas miracles that took place. But that's one more than It's a Wonderful Life.
True. And that's what I was saying. So I watched it and I was like, that's not a Christmas movie. It just takes place on Christmas, and Christmas is used more as a plot device than the plot is about Christmas.
Right.
But then I watched It's a Wonderful Life, and 2/3 of the movie isn't even about Christmas in any way, shape, or form. So I'm like,
at least there's 10 minutes of Christmas.
I know.
It's a Wonderful Life. Right.
And I'm like, well, then I guess, either neither of them are Christmas movies, or Die Hard, has to be a Christmas movie compared to It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah, it's a Christmas movie. So aside from being a Christmas movie or not being a Christmas movie, how was the movie?
It was a good movie. There was a lot of very loud noises. It was a startling movie.
Yeah, there was some loud stuff in there. Certainly.
It startled me, certainly. And then the McElroys talked about it on the Adventure Zone.
Oh, I meant to go grab that.
You didn't?
I totally did not grab that sound bite.
Hold on. Do you think you can find it live?
Yeah, we're not going to do it live. I grabbed all the sound bites from the films, and I was like, I should totally go grab that Taz thing. So, Presley watched or listened to the Adventure Zone, and now I'm listening to the Adventure Zone. And then when I listened to it, they said at some point, somebody was dead or something, and this is when he whips up from under a sheet, and Reginald Vell Johnson has to shoot his gun for the first time
We're so happy that Reginald Vell Johnson learned how to kill again.
Right? And so, Presley watched that or listened to that episode and had no idea what that meant.
I had no idea.
You can kind of from context infer what's happening, but after we watched Die Hard, I made her go back and we listened to that thing again. I was like, now you know what they're talking about, right?
Yeah, I was like, because this happens a lot in McElroy stuff, because a lot of McElroy references are to 80s and 90s movies that I haven't seen.
Right.
So that I'm just cool. I'm like that one guy. Okay, now I'm going to make a Lost reference. I'm like that one guy on It's a First Time that knows about movies
yeah.
through what they talk about on the Lost podcast.
The viewer that's emailing them that is not watching Lost, he's just basing it on what they listen to the podcast.
Yeah, that's
really
me
funny.
with a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And then they also, in The Adventure Zone, they talk about...
Shot a kid.
Shot a kid.
Reginald Johnson's I shot a kid. The greatest deliveries of dialogue in movie history.
Shot a kid.
Shot a kid.
He doesn't say it.
They brought Charlie back, but he hasn't said anything since he came back.
Like, why would they keep that in? Why wouldn't they just shoot it again?
Because, you have to understand that was probably the best take of that line that they had to use. Okay, that's another Lost reference. So yeah, you should totally go listen to the It Feels Like the First Time podcast.
Because we talk about it a lot.
Yeah, just to hear that clip is totally worth it.
And you hear it a lot.
They like that one and they play it a lot. I should have that on my board, but it's
Shot a kid.
It's in that rate, but it's even better. It brought Charlie back. Clearly a Christmas movie, and I think it's a really good movie. And you can see where. You don't watch a lot of movies. This is where things get a little interesting too, right? Because, if you watched a lot of movies, I think you would see a lot of tropes in Die Hard that weren't tropes when Die Hard did them.
Right.
It was a little more original when Die Hard did it. Although, there was another movie that was kind of similar that came out maybe a year or two before it. There were a few of these kind of things. But this became the gold standard for the everyman stuck in a situation against overwhelming odds and having to overcome that. A lot of times the other movies were like Commando, which is an old Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. And so he's Schwarzenegger. He's not just some dude.
Yeah.
His daughter it's like Taken, right? His daughter gets kidnapped and he has to go rescue her, and he's an ex-special forces kind of guy. So he's he's a super soldier that has to go be all super soldiery versus, and I mentioned that specifically because in reading up on Die Hard, this was actually at one point sort of intended to be a sequel for Commando.
Oh, really? And
so Arnold Schwarzenegger would have been the guy, although he wouldn't have fit in the AC duct in one of the most famous scenes. But having that big, muscular commando guy be John McClane, it just wouldn't have worked for me in the same way. Because part of the thing is he's just a dude. And he's a cop, so he has some level of training, but he's not, he's super soldier kind of guy.
He's just a guy.
And then, one of my whole things is that, we talked about this when we watched the movie, when before, let's see, this line.
Now I have a machine gun. Ho, ho, ho.
But... I love Hans Gruber. Man, I love Hans Gruber. But before that line, the way he got his machine gun was sort of an accident. Or not an accident so much, but luck. They fell down the stairs. And the guy broke his neck, sort of in happenstance. And so John McClane got his machine gun from that. And I love that. That's one of the things I love about this movie is that he got lucky. He got a lucky break. And in more than one time, he kind of got a lucky break that led to him getting where he needed to be and getting the upper hand in some situations. It wasn't necessarily his amazing super soldier prowess that got him that. The other thing is that this is actually a sequel. It's based on a book. I didn't even know that.
Oh, yeah, it is.
And it was the sequel to another book, and the first book also had a movie made, and Frank Sinatra starred in the first movie, and the studio had a contractual obligation to offer Frank Sinatra the lead role in this movie because it was kind of a sequel to that other movie. And so Sinatra could have been John McClane, which would have been really weird too. But he turned it down, and then Stallone, or not, maybe Stallone, but Schwarzenegger turned it, several people turned it down before. And then, so Bruce Willis, what you may not know, or which I assume you totally don't know, Bruce Willis at the time was really only known for this TV show called Moonlighting, which is like a rom-com lawyer TV show. He's a private investigator kind of. I think he was a private investigator that worked for this law firm, and there was a will they, won't they kind of thing going on with a lady that ran the law firm, and I'm sure they had a meet cute at some point it was that kind of show.
They had a meet cute.
And so he was like a romantic comedy TV actor who
Wow.
got cast in this huge action thing. And so it was kind of surprising that he was cast in it, but he was excellent. Like he is, Tony Stark, right? Like I just can't imagine
Robert Downey Jr.
anyone other than Robert Downey Jr. being Iron Man, because he
That
is
is
so
Iron Man.
perfect as Iron Man.
Yeah.
And he's John McClane, right? Like
That's
there's
who
just
he
no,
is.
I can't imagine this movie with someone else playing that role, because I thought he did such a good at it. And speaking of, one of the facts of the podcast, if you don't know,
Podcast facts.
Hans Gruber, who I love Hans Gruber. He's one of my favorite villains. And he's actually rated, again, if you look at some of the AFI top villain lists and stuff, he's on the
Official.
list because he's so good, yeah.
He's a good villain.
Do you know who he is?
I do. He's Alan Rickman, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And who else does Alan Rickman play?
That's Snape.
Severus Snape was Hans Gruber, which I think is
Severus
awesome. And he's English, right? He's a British actor.
Yeah.
But he's playing this German guy with this horrible German accent with his...
Now I have a machine gun.
You were going to play that clip so many times.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting this to be the clip of the podcast, but
It is.
I do love him saying that. And then he also, at one point when they run into each other on the roof, and he acts like he's a hostage and does like the what I read was that wasn't in the script initially.
Oh my god, it wasn't?
And that when they found out that Alan Rickman could do an American accent, they added it. And I was like, I don't think we found out that he can do an American accent. Like that didn't seem like a talent that he had to me based on that scene. And if he could do one, they may have asked him to not do one as well as he did, because that didn't seem like a great thing. So that I think it's really awesome that Gruber turned out to be Snape.
He didn't turn out to be Snape.
Well, it may be the same guy. It's entirely possible.
Maybe it was Snape the whole time.
Snape was Hans Gruber. It's where Snape got all his money. It was from the bearer bonds. You know what a bearer bond is?
No.
Yeah, so this was a thing when I remember distinctly when I was super young, and I loved this movie, not really knowing what a bearer bond was, and like thinking it was some cool, like sophisticated thing, right? But it just means like bearer in the like traditional sense of the word, like the person who's carrying it, right? So a lot of times if you have stocks and bonds or different like financial documents, certificates, they're assigned to a person.
Ooh.
So like if you owned a bunch of stock in a company, it would be, Presley Alexander owns 1,000 shares of Nakatomi Corporation, right? But a bearer bond is more like $100 bill. Mm-hmm. Like there's not somebody's name on it. Whoever's holding the $100 bill has $100. Right. And so the bearer bond, it means pay to the bearer, pay to the person who has this thing in their hand, give them the money. And so it just means that it's not attached to a person. So if you stole them, you could spend them. Yeah. It would be like stealing cash. But they're, you can have 100. They look like they were like $100,000, $200,000 maybe per bond. Mm-hmm. So instead of $100,000 in cash would be a lot of stuff, whereas $100,000 is just one piece of paper in the bearer bonds. And so that's why they were stealing the bearer bonds. I remember thinking bearer bonds was like some German thing maybe, or like I couldn't figure out what it was, and I finally looked it up at some point, and that's what it turned out to be. Cool. Okay.
Cool.
All right. What else you got?
I have Christmas Murder. Very festive. Like I like. If it's a Christmas movie,
yeah. So this was the Christmas murder movie, and then Wonderful Life was the Christmas suicide movie.
Yay!
So it is. They were both a little.
We're having a good Christmas
dark,
time.
A little dark for Christmas time. It's for people with like seasonal affective disorder. The Christmas movies to watch.
Yeah, just the season for murder is good. It's like I wrote that down. Yeah, I like that. I like Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah.
Is like a kind of a spooky Christmas
Right.
movie.
Right.
I like it when they do the movie for the season, but it's not like boom festive. It's like boom murder instead.
Yeah,
it's
so
good.
both of these definitely fit that theme.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool too. Another thing he did that was kind of they showed it a little bit more, but when he wrote people's names, like he was listening on the radio and writing down all the names that he heard, so that when he would talk to Hans on the radio, he would drop people's names just to confuse them. Like, how does he know so much? How does he know what's going on? Is this guy got some that was a cool tactic that he used. And again, they didn't super call it out as a big thing about what he was doing.
That could go very badly.
How do you mean?
Like, you could just drop some random person's name and then the other side knows that person is dead or not involved, or they could pick up on that and then start dropping random people's names, and then they'd know.
They could have done some counterintelligence stuff against him. Yeah, but he was they didn't know he was listening in on them, and so he was pretty sure that those names were real names. Right. And he knew who he killed. He even said, when I killed blah 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 and his buddy. Like, he didn't know which guy that was, so he didn't just give him one of the names that he knew. Yeah. He said his buddy, and then they had to kind of check into. I thought that was
cool.
That was clever. I wrote in my notes that the ho 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 guy, the guy that got killed, first by John, and that's when the one I said was a Christmas miracle that John McClane broke his neck sort of by mistake or happenstance. I said that's what you get for wearing sweatpants to a heist. It's like that one terrorist was just like in a sweatsuit. And I don't know if that was like some commentary on German fashion or like why that dude was wearing like gray sweatpants to a
why not? It's comfortable.
$650 million
That's
heist.
Something I would do.
So you deserve to be the first person to die if you're the guy. Like Hans is sort of also saying like, I buy my suits where Arafat buys his suits at this custom shop in London, but this dude's wearing sweatpants.
I would be that dude. If you're gonna go on a heist, you should wear something comfortable.
Oh, here's a really cool one too. This was another one I thought was kind of a mistake. So Hans Gruber, when he comes in, he's like, I'm looking for Takagi? Was that the guy's name?
Yeah,
I can't remember. I think it was Takagi. And so he's like, he was born, blah, blah, blah. Here's his parents. Here's where he went to school. Here's the degrees that he got. He knows all this stuff about him, but he doesn't know what he looked like.
I know.
Like, he sort of seems like he probably should have known what the guy looked like at that time.
Also, that information is not going to help you find the dude. Like, it's not everyone knows where he went to school.
But it's kind of the same. It's the same thing that John is doing with dropping the names of the terrorists. It's being like, how does he know so much about? Like, it's just psychological warfare, right? It's not as much about like helping him find him as it is about showing how much research he did.
But that's just kind of
to prep for this job.
Weird to do, but yeah.
So the other person that you may or may not have recognized was the sort of jerk cop that kept trying to take over for Reginald Val Johnson.
He looked familiar.
He is the principal in the Breakfast Club. Mess with the bull, you get the horns.
Yeah,
it's that guy.
Yeah,
that guy showed up, and he was kind of a jerk, and like he has been typecast as that kind of a person. And lots of people who have trouble with a movie, one of the big things they don't like is him, and like he's a bad reflection of kind of the police force and the sort of typical bureaucratic.
Yeah, but then you have Reginald Johnson who learned how to kill again.
He did learn how to kill again,
and he's
and then the FBI shows up. Those FBI guys were just crazy.
They just showed up.
It was a parody, basically. By the time that they showed up.
Why? The FBI hopefully is not like that. That's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Like they brought out these like lights because that's gonna help for some reason. And then like, why did you do
I did think. Well, part of that too. I thought that Hans and his team of people, well, him specifically, not even his team, but him knowing what the playbook was, so he knew they would cut power to the building, and he used that as part of his plan for how to get in the vault. Like I like movies where the criminals use the police procedures against them. Like if you're predictable and the bad guys know what you're going to do, they can leverage that and use it against you.
Right.
Like I thought that was super clever. I really dug that. I wrote that one down. The press as the bad guys. That was
really cool. I like that.
Press have always been the bad guys in these kinds of things. When he swings off the roof with the fire hose and kind of swings and kicks through the window.
That was so fun.
Yeah, that's a pretty famous scene.
And then it started falling off, and I was like, well, that's no...
Kind of pulling him out of the window.
Yeah, and I was like, well, why don't you just, like, take it off? Or, like, he was trying to.
Yeah.
But, like, or pick it up out of the window?
It weighed more. Like, that thing, you had to think that thing was super heavy.
Right, to pull him out of the window.
That's right.
It's like, the TV.
Okay. I think Cooper's watching TV. Oh, the TV unpaused.
Yeah,
okay.
The TV does that. I don't know why our TV does that. It's really weird.
Okay, cool. All right, so, hold on. I'm going back to the soundboard now. Okay?
Oh, soundboard.
In case I missed anything. All right, famous-ish quotes?
Come out to the coast. We'll get together. Have a few laughs.
So that's him in the air vents too, right? And he had, in the air vent, he had the lighter that he took off of the first guy that he killed. Like when he searched the guy's pockets, he kind of found the lighter, and then he was using the lighter when he was in the thing. And so that's kind of a big thing. That's a big quote. Come out to the coast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
So that's a big one. And see, Pal, maybe that's where Pal came from. Because clearly Taz knows this movie.
Yes.
Right? The McElroys know this because they referenced it, so maybe that's why they called everybody Pal.
The McElroys are the Adventure Zone.
They're Taz. So yeah, maybe that's why they called everybody Pal.
Yeah. And then I started calling everyone Pal because of the Adventure Zone. I call it like everyone Pal.
Here's a really good one.
Begin your reconnoiter.
So that was like when the SWAT team came in, and this is again like the stereotypical SWAT commander guy. Begin your reconnoiter. So like a reconnoiter is like a survey, like reconnaissance. Like
I don't know either of those words.
Like,
I know the word survey, but
look around and see what's going on.
Then
like
just say that.
Go, sneak up to the building and look in the window and see what you can see.
Right.
That's reconnoitering.
Then why would you say reconnoitering?
Begin your reconnoiter because it sounds all official and military.
Wow.
And, begin your
reconnoiter.
Begin your reconnoiter.
It's like those like fifth graders who go through that phase of using really fancy words, but a grown man who works in the FBI.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah, or like when a kid decides that they're going to pronounce silent letters.
That was me. That was me. I did that.
That was you. Okay, hold on. I'm going to switch over to let me look at the wiki article here and see if I'm missing anything significant about this. This was a really good movie. I enjoy this, even like outside of being a Christmas movie. That's the beauty of it, is you can watch it not on Christmas too.
Yeah.
So Frank Sinatra, which is kind of crazy. Arnold Schwarzenegger is a sequel to Commando, which I think would have been horrible. Can't imagine that.
Oh no.
It's actually in the National Film Registry because it's considered to be significant. That was in 2017. It was just last year that it was added to the film registry.
That was last year, wasn't it?
Named one of the best action and best Christmas themed films ever made.
Themed film, not a Christmas film.
It's number 28 on Empire's. There was an interesting.
We're just doing like.
There was one I was reading where I think It's a Wonderful Life. Yeah, when we switch over to that, we'll talk more about that.
Yeah.
And there's like the big summary. Hans Gruber. Doesn't say anything about the sweatpants in the Wikipedia article. So the other thing that I think is interesting, it's really cool, that's just kind of us, I suppose, is after watching the movie, we realized that Nakatomi Plaza is like right outside our window.
We can see
it. From our balcony, you can just look out and see Nakatomi Plaza.
That's pretty
cool. And especially
cool.
with like a little spotting scope, you can see really clearly like all the dimensions of the building and stuff. So it's the Fox Plaza in Century City.
You can just go there.
We need to drive up there. Yeah, it's just right up the road, right? That is not far from us at all. It's kind of cool to be able to look out the balcony. Like I've always loved the fact that from our balcony here, you can see the Hollywood sign and Griffith Observatory. But I think it's even cooler that you can see Nakatomi Plaza.
Yeah. What is Nakatomi Plaza, actually?
It's the Fox building. Fox, the production studio and the distribution company and stuff. Yeah, it's their building. Or at least it was. I think it still is.
Yeah, and that makes sense why it was in a movie.
Yeah. And so it was this one, like critical reception. People loved it kind of right off the bat. Yay. It did really well. People kind of dug it. So here we go. Critics rating. Some critics have ranked the film on a respective list of all-time best Christmas movies. So Digital Spy calls it the number 5 Christmas movie.
What's the...
Empire's number 1. Ooh. Entertainment Weekly number 4. Forbes number 1. The Guardian, which is a British paper, UK, number 8. Hollywood Reporter number 4, and San Francisco Gate number 1.
Yeah, this is
like top 5 Christmas movie for.
It's a pretty good Christmas movie.
Pretty good list.
It's a Christmas movie, I guess. I guess my definition of Christmas movie applies to like maybe 2 Christmas movies. So.
Oh right, right, yeah. That's exactly that may be the case. There were a lot of sequels, and they're all really bad.
There's one. I only know that there's one called Die Harder, which is the stupidest title for a movie.
Die Hard
ever.
with a Vengeance.
So, that's even worse. What are they doing?
Star Trek: The Next Generation. The Star Trek: The Next Generation episode Starship Mine has been described as Die Hard in space.
Ooh, I want to see this. I want to see this.
I totally want to watch that.
I haven't seen any Star Trek, but I'll watch that.
So the 2013 films Olympus Has Fallen and White House Down were dubbed Die Hard in the White House.
Die Hard in the White House. Olympus Has Fallen. Haha, Red Rising.
Under Siege is Die Hard on a battleship, which is totally true.
It's just Die Hard on different...
Passenger 57, Die Hard on a plane. Speed is Die Hard on a bus. The Rock is Die Hard on an island.
The Rock himself.
No, there's a movie called The Rock.
Does it have The Rock in it?
It does. It actually does not have The Rock in it.
Wow.
And I think much to its discredit, it does not have The Rock in it.
Oh.
But like here, Empire's got it as number 29 on their 500 greatest movies of all time list. That's not even a Christmas movie. That's just
a movie.
Yeah. Gruber was listed as the 17th greatest film character by Empire.
17th greatest. That's good. No, I agree with that.
Entertainment Weekly named it the best action film of all time.
Ooh.
Yep. So I'm all over it, man.
They're good movie.
I love it.
Good movie.
All right, cool. So
I
let's.
do say so myself.
You have anything else for Die Hard before we switch over to Wonderful Life?
Nothing that makes sense.
Ooh, here's a little weird thing. Again, this is something I read. That the ending of the movie wasn't written and established when they started filming.
Oh, really?
And so if you look at the very beginning of the movie, when the bad guys first start showing up, right? Mm-hmm. So they do that cool shot where like Theo and Carl maybe come into the lobby and shoot the security guard.
Yeah.
But when they're pulling in, there's the big black truck and then them and then a little silver car. And like the black truck goes down the ramp and they go straight and kind of flat. It's just this really kind of cool looking shot.
Yeah.
So that black truck that went down into the parking garage, later at the end of the movie, they pull an ambulance out of that truck. And that's like Theo's in the ambulance when Argyle slams the limo into him.
Yeah.
At the very end. Like that ambulance, number one, would not have fit in that truck that was at the beginning.
Yeah, I know.
And there were also, like 10 guys in there. And they even kind of show the inside of the truck when they get out of the truck, and there's no ambulance in there.
But then, boom,
But then at the
ambulance.
end, it's a bigger truck, and there's an ambulance in it.
Maybe
because
another truck went in there.
Because they hadn't written it at the time that they did that.
That's kind of
So
silly.
yeah, I thought that was kind of a
I
silly.
meant to look up what the definition of Argyle was, because I didn't remember it.
It's like a pattern.
Yeah.
Like Argyle socks.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like little diamonds.
Oh,
kind of.
like that thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's
I mean, maybe it means something else,
Yeah.
too. But that's what I know of Argyle. I know of Argyle socks, which are
Argyle
like little
socks.
diamond socks.
Yeah.
I liked Argyle, too. Like, that was kind of a funny shtick.
Yeah.
The only weird thing about Argyle shtick was that, like, John McClane kept kind of coming back to him and, like, calling him on the phone, or he was talking. He was oblivious to everything that was going on because he was listening to the radio so loud. But it was kind of the same song every time. And, like, he was listening to this one song for, like, an hour and a half.
That's me, though.
It was just a loop of this one track that they had licensed, I guess.
Yeah.
They couldn't afford another song for him to listen to.
Yeah, that's like relatable though.
And there was like this really great Christmas rap album. Like at the beginning when he picks John up and John's riding in the front seat with him and he's like, hey, let's listen to some music. And he pops a cassette tape in, which I thought was awesome. He pops in the cassette tape and it starts playing this rap thing. And John McClane's like, hey, don't you have any Christmas music? And he's like, what are you talking about? This is Christmas music.
Yay,
that was a
Christmas rap.
really good rap Christmas album that came out from like, it was like MTV something. You remember that movie? Like the MTV rap Christmas album. It was really good. And so that was nice and nostalgic for me too.
Yay, Christmas rap.
Okay, let's.
Not that it matters because we only listen to the Elvis Christmas music.
That's all anyone should ever listen to.
That's all we listen
is
to.
Elvis Christmas music.
Yeah.
Okay, well, good movie.
Good movie.
Thumbs up.
Yay.
Solid thumbs up. I might watch it again. Before
Yeah, I mean we have
put
it on our
away.
Dropbox. You can just like watch it whenever.
I may watch it a couple times. That's definitely going into our Christmas rotation, though. I think.
Is it going into the same movie you watch every day rotation?
Well, it's just no, because like that happens on TV. Like if
Yeah.
I see something on cable, if what are the two movies that I watch?
You watch. I don't know what the other one is, but you watch Scott Pilgrim. You
Yeah.
watch Scott Pilgrim. We've lived here for like 6 months.
Something like that. Yeah.
You've watched Scott Pilgrim at least 50 times.
But not all of it. Just
Yeah.
if I see it on, I watch from there to the end.
The new one with Chris Pine you've been watching recently.
Oh, it was Chris Pine. Which Chris is that one? There's too many Chris's.
I'm not sure what that one is.
The cowboy movie with the shooting,
No, he watched that one twice.
and they're on the porch at the end.
Oh, okay. So Mommy is talking about Hell or High Water, which is that Chris Pine?
I think so.
Okay.
It's one of the Chris's.
Yeah, that's a really good movie. I've seen that movie. The other one's Deadpool. I watched Deadpool. If Deadpool's
Yeah.
on, I'll watch Deadpool to the end
You
of it.
have watched
and
Deadpool.
if
But
if
Deadpool
Scott
is
Pilgrim
like-
is on, I will watch. I have almost now certainly seen Scott Pilgrim more than I've seen any other movie.
Yeah.
That's probably
That's
my
true.
most watched movie in my
I wonder
life
what my
at this
most
point.
watched movie is. I bet it's a Lego movie because
I think that's almost a perfect movie. Scott Pilgrim is so
Scott
good.
Pilgrim is a very good movie.
So good.
Unfortunately, we've both seen it multiple times.
Yes, we have.
So we can't put it on.
No,
this
it's not going to be
podcast.
on the podcast. All right, let's go to Wonderful Life.
Wonderful Life. Wow.
right.
It's a Wonderful Life.
It's a Wonderful Life. What did you
Yay.
think about It's a Wonderful Life?
This movie is just really wholesome. It's not wholesome.
It's about suicide.
Well,
How can
the
it be
bits that are
wholesome?
no, like the fact the whole movie is like
The theme.
the theme of the movie and the dialogue in the movie and the overall the movie is just very. You said this after we finished watching the movie. You said it's a very wholesome Christmas movie, and it's like, it sure is.
It's considered to be a very wholesome Christmas movie if you don't think about it too much. I think it's kind of the way it goes. But it's also like the opposite. This feels really strange to say, but like it feels like Die Hard was a lot more subtle than It's a Wonderful Life. Like there was subtlety in Die Hard that did not exist in this. Like the entire premise of It's a Wonderful Life
was in the last
was
15
a
minutes.
lack of subtlety
Yeah.
in the last 15 minutes. And the first, like, I don't know, it was like 2 hours long, let's say. I don't remember how long it is, but let's say it's 2 hours long.
I can
The
check.
first, like, hour and a half was exposition.
Yeah, I know.
Like if you watch the beginning of the movie, right, the angels are kind of getting together and they call Clarence and they're like, hey, Clarence, this guy's about to try and commit suicide.
He's like, oh no.
You need to go save him. And he's like, oh, that's going to happen in an hour? And they're like, yeah, we're going to spend the next hour getting you caught up on this guy's life so you
Instead
can
of
go
helping
save him.
Instead of saving him.
And so that's what you do. Like you're there basically getting a briefing for Clarence, exposition of George Bailey's life story.
Yeah.
And then the movie starts in the last reel when he tries to jump off the bridge.
I know.
Like that's when the movie
That's
kind of
not
starts.
good.
The rest of it is just exposition. And when I think about the movie, and I think when I talk to people about the movie, everybody thinks about the last 15 minutes. Like that's what you talk about. I think almost all of my sound clips are from that last 15 minutes. Like the
Right.
rest of the movie is just kind of this placeholder of a film.
I know. It's like you could have like so much of that movie did not need to exist.
But not saying it's not a good movie.
No, it's a good movie,
Like it
but
is,
it didn't
it's-
need
it
to
is
be
a
there.
good and entertaining movie.
It is an entertaining movie. And
It's
good.
really kind of 3 movies though.
Yeah, it's
Right.
like the. So the movie, I'm trying to think of how. I know it's 2 movies.
I think like it's them kind of falling in love.
Yeah, so it's like
The-
rom-com.
The courtship rom-com meet cute.
Yes.
Did they have a meet cute?
I don't know because it was
No, they
established
already knew each other,
Yeah, they
yeah,
already knew
in
each
the-
other.
in
But
the
I bet.
Sort of.
I mean, it's
jerk thing.
close enough to a meet. Like it's
When he
it
sees
doesn't-
her again, that's almost a meet cute at the dance.
That is definitely a meet cute. That counts as a meet
But they
cute.
didn't meet.
Well,
they
that
knew each
counts
other.
as a meet.
But
a
they
meet
hadn't
cute,
seen each other in a
A
long
meet
time.
cute doesn't mean that they meet. Like it means that.
How can a meet cute not mean that they
It
meet?
means like if you're acquaintance, if they're a stranger, then you like a meet cute can be because I read a lot of meet cute fics because I'm weird. Because
Is that a genre?
It is. It's a genre of fic. Is the meet cute, and it's a big part of the fic. Like the meet cute can be the stranger that you see, like the stranger that comes to your shop a lot, like the stranger that comes to the coffee shop. That's like the biggest example.
Like when
That's
you
an-
officially introduce yourselves and sort of get to know each other, that's
Yes,
still a meet cute.
that's the meet cute. And like the meet cute is that, and like it does. Like they kind of knew each other, but that's because he was working in the store and she
So
comes to the store.
does their meet cute include them falling in the pool? Does it go all the way up to
Oh yes, meet cute is
them doing the Charleston competition sort of
That
by
is-
accident
that whole
and
thing is a
falling
meet
in the
cute.
pool? That whole thing
that
is still
whole
part of
thing
the
is a
meet
meet cute, and
All
it's a
right.
good meet cute.
All right, so that's movie 1 to me. Movie 2 is kind of when he's an adult and he's running the savings and loan.
Yeah.
And then movie 3 is after he
30
jumps
minutes.
off the bridge.
Yeah.
So I think but they're totally
Well, not
different.
after.
But they're all good.
Yeah, they're all good movies. They're
Yeah.
just 3 different movies.
They're just very, very, very different.
so
films.
they
Okay.
should have either made 3 different movies or made one.
And I think I've got one soundbite from movie 1.
Okay.
And it's kind of a like a backhanded compliment. What do you call those?
Oh, back
There's a word for when you say something that is both complimentary. It sounds like a compliment, but it's also kind of an insult at the same time. And it's supposed to like diminish
it's a
someone's
backhanded
self-esteem while you're
Complimenting
them.
No, that's a backhanded compliment.
Yeah, but there's another word
There's
for it. I can't
another
remember
word
what it is.
for
They
it,
use
but I
it in
don't know.
Big Bang Theory because like Howard Wolowitz tries to use it at clubs to pick up women
Yeah,
because he
my-
wants to destroy their self-esteem so
He
that they'll
watches-
date him.
He watches The Big Bang Theory a lot.
I do watch the Big Bang Theory a lot. Okay, so here's my backhanded compliment that I had never noticed before, but I thought was super funny when we watched it.
You know, if it wasn't me talking, I'd say you were the prettiest girl in town.
I know, like,
Like
that's so mean.
That's kind of insulting.
That's so mean.
That's really kind of mean to say.
I know. Like, why would you say that? The only reason to say that is if you're not heterosexual.
And she says, like, why not you? Right? She does kind of call him out on it a little bit, but like I still think that that's
You know, if it wasn't me talking, I'd say you were the prettiest girl in town.
that's super funny.
That's so mean. I know. I didn't think about that.
And the other, like, this is because we listened to First Time Show last night, but there's also Jimmy Stewart playing like 17-year-old Jimmy Stewart. And I thought it was funny when I was watching the movie, but they sort of went into this whole thing about Locke supposed to be 17 years old in one of his flashbacks, and because they put hair on him, and it was really hilarious. Like it was so funny. And now that I'm playing this, I realize that was also like 17-year-old Jimmy Stewart. Like putting him in that football uniform was supposed to make him like 17 years old, and none of them were 17 years old. They were like the oldest teenagers in the world.
I know. They do that, and I don't understand.
Because he was about to go to college, like
Right.
he wasn't even. He was
They
graduating
do
high
that.
school.
They do that in Broadway.
Yeah.
It's like they have complete adults play teenagers.
That was super funny though. But yeah, so he insulted her and then they fell in love. That was
Me cute.
super cute. And the whole thing about her losing her robe and hiding in the bushes and him like I should sell tickets and she's going to call the police and well the police would be on my side. Like that was all like borderline.
That was really
kinda
bad. I was like so
creepy too.
uncomfortable.
Like that was like definitely
That was very uncomfortable.
part of the time for
Hold
sure.
on, I just wanted to say really quickly because I thought of something. Is like just back on the meet cute thing really fast.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I thought of like a technical meet cute, which I have read before, is your child like a childhood friend. You run into a childhood friend.
So that's still a meet cute,
That's
even though
still
you
a
knew
meet
them.
cute,
Because that's
'cause it's
exactly
like-
what that was.
The meet cute is where the romance starts.
So that's a classic meet cute, was
That
what
is-
happened in this movie.
Yes.
They were childhood friends. They hadn't seen each other in a long time. They
Yeah.
re-met and kind of like, oh my God, she's super hot.
Yes, that's a meet cute because
Other
it's like
than
where
me.
the
Other people think she's cute.
it's like where the romance part starts.
Okay, all right.
Unless it's friends to lovers, then you can't really have a meet cute.
Yeah, I'll buy that. Yeah, one of the just random notes I'm going to throw in here too. I thought I had forgotten about the aspect ratio of the film.
Yeah,
Like-
that was cool.
TV and film used to have kind of the same square-ish aspect ratio,
Yeah.
like 4:3 or whatever. And so really old films you'll see are in 4:3, and then films go to letterbox, which is to sort of distinguish them from television, so that like film was first, and you could have films and they could be kind of that 4:3 ratio.
Yeah.
And then at home you get a TV, and your TV is kind of the same thing, and you have kind of the same argument people have now. Well, why would I go to the movie theater? I've got this TV. And so movie production people are like, oh, well, we'll make this widescreen, like big cinematic
Yeah.
thing that you don't get at home. And so you have this different aspect ratio that you can go see. And so it was kind of interesting to see that this film was in more of the 4:3 sort of
Yeah.
aspect ratio.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Thought that was kind of cool. Another local fact that I think is kind of cool.
Local facts.
Los Angeles fact. So one of the auditions that you went to do, this is one of the first ones we drove over, and after your audition, we walked up to the like Hollywood Walk of Fame and went to
Oh.
like Shake Shack.
Yeah, that was good. I
So
liked Shake
that was
Shack.
on Gower Street.
Yes.
And that is where Mr. Gower, the guy that ran the drugstore, got his name.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so the
that's
production
cool.
studio that I think Capra used to work for was on Gower Street. And there was like a drugstore on Gower Street where the production, like people that worked there used to go hang out. And so Mr. Gower got his name from Gower Street, which is just down the road from where I work. And,
Yeah.
and we totally drove over there.
I'm
That's one of
getting
the
a lot
places
of
we stayed.
information about where we live.
I did think one of the interesting things for this too was with Mr. Gower, since we're talking about Mr. Gower,
Mm-hmm.
when young George, that would have been funny if that had been Jimmy Stewart too. When he was a little kid doing the deliveries, that totally should have just been Jimmy Stewart too, in like little short pants and a little hat.
Anyway, I was going along with you, and then you said that, and then my train of thought just stopped.
Oh, that would have been funny. Okay, so when little Jimmy Stewart in his short pants and beanie hat
Beanie.
told Mr. Gower that he put poison in the pills, Mr. Gower's first response was to taste the pills. Like he tore it apart and put it on his finger and like ate it. And he's like, oh my God, that's poison. Like that doesn't seem like a good
Stupid.
pharmacist.
Don't do that.
I would think day one of pharmacy school.
Don't put it in your
Don't
mouth.
eat the poison. If you think something
Why
might
does
be
a pharmacy
poison.
have poison?
I don't know.
Why?
I don't know. It's a big bottle just labeled poison. It's some kind. It's not a specific thing.
And the label was
It's
turned
just
around.
Poison.
Why do you need that?
Why should you? Why
Also-
is the
yeah,
poison next to the
also-
flower?
I know.
Seems like such a bad idea.
I know. It should be like in a safe or something.
Right.
And also there's this like 8-year-old working in a store, and that was weird for me
Yeah, well,
to
that's
see.
more
'cause
of
child
a,
labor
that's a time
laws.
thing. Yeah, so that is a time period thing. Like running errands and doing deliveries and making nickel and stuff is something that
Nobody
happens,
was like legit just working.
But like,
was
tasting
like, wow.
tasting poison is something.
A bad idea.
Hopefully, they cover that in pharmacy
Pharmacy
school
school.
these days. That's not the best way to identify
Pharmacy
poison.
school.
Is by taste. Yeah. All right. So here's my last two things, and then
Yes.
you can wrap up anything you've got, and we'll get out of here because we're over an hour.
Whoops.
This movie, this is a little bit longer than one point, but so the general idea is that this movie did really poorly when it came out.
Really?
Yeah, it lost money. It almost like ruined Capra's career. Like he had made all of these big blockbuster films leading up to this, and when he made this one, people felt like it was a little out of touch. Like the times were progressing a little bit, and he was making this sort of simplistic story and beautiful, cute thing that didn't resonate with people at the time that he made it, because I think it was after the war, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it didn't do well. It didn't make its money back. It lost money in the theater. Like it did not become what it is now for a while.
Now it's very
And so yeah, it was sort of damaging in a big way. And so part of that is it won one Academy Award that year. And what it won an Academy Award for was they came up with a new way to make snow,
Wow, really?
like film snow for the movie.
Really? Oh,
And
that's
they won a
cool.
technical, there's the technical awards that are part of the Academy Awards. You don't see them on TV, but they do these technical awards, which are people that, like the guy that built the Steadicam, right? Like you win awards for technical
Well, that should be
innovation
on TV.
in film.
That's cool.
Sometimes they are like on the Film Channel or something, but before this movie, snow in films was white painted cornflakes.
Really?
And so they would like break them up into pieces and paint them white and scatter them around the ground.
That's-
And so, we've been talking a lot about looping audio, right? About when you have to go in and re-record the audio of somebody and it doesn't sound quite right.
Yeah.
And so in movies before this, you had to loop in all of the dialogue if it was in a snow scene because it was people walking around on cornflakes. And it was so loud that you couldn't record dialogue.
What did they use in this movie?
It was like this sugar and like the stuff inside of a fire extinguisher, like a foam kind of thing. Like they came up with a whole new
Do people use it today?
chemical thing. I think it's a different thing now, but like that fake snow that we get from Steve Spangler is
Yeah,
probably close to what
probably.
people use now.
It's just diaper.
But yeah, it lost the awards that it was nominated for, other than this technical achievement award. And I just thought it was so crazy that like white painted cornflakes was the best you could do for snow.
Who looked at cornflakes and thought,
they
yes, that
they
makes
look a little
snow.
like snowflakes. They look a little
They're
like snowflakes.
cornflakes.
But then, like, I want to find some old footage of people walking around on cornflakes and trying to record audio
Yeah, that's
on
so stupid.
on those things.
That's
So
bad.
that, yeah, like it didn't do well, and sometimes that happens. Like a movie or a book or something happens and it's just not right for the time,
Yeah.
but then it catches on later
Yeah.
and becomes like
Vincent Van
like
Gogh?
I would say, like a lot of times, like Vincent Van Gogh. That's an excellent example.
Van Gogh.
Van Gogh.
Gogh.
Yeah. So,
Whatever.
like sometimes those things become cult hits, like underground. The people love it because it's so bad or something like that.
Yeah.
Like that's how cult classics happen a lot. They're not very big
Cult
when they first
classics
come
is such a
out,
very
and then a
strange
cult
thing.
classic, it becomes a cult classic, and people love it and watch it
Yeah.
later. But this and Van Gogh both became legitimate successes, right, out of not being successful initially. Like I think that's a pretty cool story. And then the one other thing I was going to mention, and there's no soundbite for this because the guy didn't say anything, but the guy it was like a drawbridge, I think, that he jumped off of. And so when they went in the office with like the guy that ran the bridge,
Yeah.
and like every
he's just
time
like-
he was trying to spit in the spittoon, and Clarence would say something, and he would be like have to lean back and not spit, and like I loved that guy. Like I thought that guy was super
really-
funny. Like
that
I don't
was
know
really
why,
funny.
but I thought that every time I
And then
see
he
that
just
guy,
knew.
and then gone. Like, you know,
He
doesn't
just
have any,
left.
doesn't really have any dialogue. Doesn't really do anything.
He was just there.
He just doesn't spit
That's
for like
his-
5 minutes.
that's his role.
That's his role, is to not spit.
That's a good role.
But like that, also at that time there were like spittoons. Like people would chew tobacco, and they would have to have like a thing to spit their tobacco in. Like I remember as a kid, and mommy maybe even knew people like family wise, like when you got kind of some WT in you, you have people that like walk around with a cup with like a paper towel stuffed down in it, and they spit their tobacco in that. And so just around the house there would be these glasses full of spit with tobacco in it from people dipping snuff or chew or whatever it was. But like a long time ago, there were just containers like trash cans on the floor that was like a community spit bin. And so whenever when it was time to spit, you would spit in the spittoon. Like I think we even had a spittoon. Like decoratively in our house at one point. I think Nani had bought a big spittoon looking thing. And so they kind of like a big funnel on the top of it, so it's easy to hit when you spit in it.
That's so
And then it runs down and you have to dump it. Like it's a whole nasty thing. But so that's what that guy was doing, was chewing and needing to spit his tobacco into the spittoon. Tobacco, yeah.
It's like, is that an accent thing or is that just a thing?
I don't know. It's an old-timey word for tobacco.
Tobacco. It's like,
That
and
I just made
remember
up.
this is something. This is something I wanted to say. Is you say, Ellie? I didn't notice it before, but you say picture like pitcher. You
Yeah,
say
so
it's a
I grew up in
picture.
Tennessee, and
That's the end of
there
story.
are like these landmine words for me that I mispronounce
Yeah.
because
like,
of my Tennessee. I've gotten rid of a lot of them.
Yeah. You
but-
still say Dale. It's
For what is that?
Doll?
Doll?
Yeah, or maybe it's. I think it was you because I was talking to you. You might have gotten rid of it, but I was talking to you a while ago.
Yeah.
You said Dal.
Yeah,
I
it's
was like,
possible.
not a
I don't
Dal.
know. There's weird stuff. I know
doll?
a
A
big
dowel?
one. Target used to be a big one. People used to
Target.
make fun of me all the time for how I say Target. We're gonna go to Target.
I don't
And
even think about Target.
That one's kind of a
That's
hard
just how
one
you
to
say
get rid
Target.
of. So there's
Target.
Target.
There's pitcher.
And then there's like Brian. Like almost everybody in Tennessee calls me Brian.
They call me Presley.
Yeah, Presley with a Z, definitely.
Or
but yeah,
Presley.
like
It's
I always get called Brian.
Brian.
Yeah, like in the ocean, like the stuff whales eat, right?
Brian.
Yeah, Brian Christopher. Yeah, so that's just that comes out of my Tennessee-ness.
I'm always giving us the wrap up.
Trying to get rid of some of those. Okay, so
Anyway.
what are your wrap up thoughts on It's a Wonderful
Wrap
Life?
up thoughts. This is a really good movie. It's like a very happy Christmas movie, which is a good contrast to Die Hard, because Die Hard is the gun Christmas movie, and then this is a happy.
Suicide.
I know, but okay. There's suicide in this movie for like 3 minutes, even though it's supposed to be the plot of the whole movie, and it's really weird.
Right.
The whole movie is supposed to, because I was like down for seeing 2 hours of what life would be like if this one person
Oh right,
didn't
yeah,
exist. But
definitely
it's like
wasn't
2
that.
minutes of
Definitely
that.
wasn't that.
Like they go into a restaurant.
It's a
he's
super
like,
cute movie. I think it's a little heavy-handed, and
Yeah.
I think that's it's just part of the time. But I do think that like the story and the idea of you can either roll with it and see what your life is becoming and embrace it,
or die.
or you can let that sort of ruin your view of your life.
Yeah.
That you didn't do the thing you thought you were going to do
But that's
when you
not the
were
thing-
10.
Yeah. Don't do that.
Yeah, don't get wrapped up in that.
Don't.
Like that's a beautiful message, and it's awesome, and I love it. Okay,
Do it.
so let's do housekeeping first, and then you can assign me.
Okay, housekeeping. So, if you want to send your thoughts on these movies or recommend things for either of us to assign to, so that could be things that, like, 80s, 90s things that my dad has probably seen, so he can assign them to me, or in my case, like, modern things you like, so that I can go and then get into them and then assign them to you. And then you can hit us up at ValidateMeCast on Twitter and ValidateMePodcast@gmail.com.
And I am committing to. I'm going to get into the Validate Me Cast Twitter like once a day and retweet at least stuff that is relevant to the properties that we've covered in here.
Okay.
So I'm going to
sounds
make it, like, in addition to us talking about what we're doing, I'm going to make it, like, sending out, like, cool articles and stuff about Die Hard and It's a
Should I do it
Wonderful
on
Life
Tungle?
and things like that. On Tungle?
good. Yeah. Untungle?
Maybe if you
Untungle.
I wouldn't be surprised were that a thing. I did not know what it is.
On Tumblr.com.
Yeah, there's a tungle. Yeah, so let's just start with Twitter. We're gonna
Okay.
start with Twitter, and we're
Twitter.
gonna send out some stuff.
Yeah, go look at the twits.
We'll send out some articles. Okay, and
twits, yes.
what's other way to get a hold of us?
The other way to get a hold of us is validatemepodcast@gmail.com or in the YouTube comments of the video podcasts that go out sometime. I don't know.
There you go. And if you want us to talk about you in 2 weeks when we do the next podcast,
Comment.
Here's what you need to check out.
Oh, what you need to check out. So I am assigning you Be More Chill.
Be More Chill.
Be More Chill. And
Be More
then-
Chill is a musical.
It is a musical, yes. It is one of several musicals that I'm very into, and major not safe for work morning. Major, please.
Be More Chill is?
Yes,
Oh, that's
please be
interesting.
careful listening to this musical.
Okay.
I cannot say the first line of the musical on the podcast,
And
but it will give you a good tone for this musical.
You are assigning me the soundtrack?
Yes.
Or is there a way I'm supposed to actually watch the musical?
Not legally.
Okay.
I mean, the first 30 minutes of it are not legally
Is
up,
the
but only the
soundtrack
first 30
available
minutes.
legally?
Yes, it
Okay,
is.
so I can-
It is provided to, like, you know how, like, music companies give their music to YouTube
Sure.
and it's just up?
Oh, yeah.
Then
okay.
that way. And that is legal. I checked.
So this is listening
And you can
to
buy it too, with
listening to the soundtrack.
listening to the soundtrack, and we have a sound clip from this already.
It's from Japan!
I
Look at that.
insisted.
I was ready.
I insisted that, yes, you are. I insisted that was on the soundboard because
That's on the permanent soundboard too. Like that's the one that Presley has requested remain on the permanent board. So and that's it, right? Because that's
Yes.
got to be a couple hours.
Yeah,
of-
it's a couple hours.
Yeah, yeah.
It's good.
All
I am
right, so
excited.
we're gonna
for you to
do
listen to
Be
it.
More Chill. I want to
Yes.
look at fan art
Ooh.
for Be More Chill because I know there's a lot of fan art out there. We see
Oh, boy,
art
there's
of
a
them in when we go to cons.
Yes, I saw a Michael cosplayer and like screamed audibly because I was very excited because there was in the middle of LA Comic-Con.
Yeah.
So the first day I saw Michael, but I hadn't listened to Be More Chill yet, but I knew it was Michael because everyone talks about it always. So then I listened to it when I got home. And then I went the second day and I'm like, I want to find that Michael because now I know who he is. And then I didn't
right.
find the Michael.
Is
and it made me sad.
Be More Chill? Where do you rate it against Hamilton?
Okay, well, the thing you have to understand is that Hamilton is peak musical.
Yeah.
It is the most musical of musical,
Yeah, yeah.
the good one.
Yeah.
And like no matter
So let's say Hamilton's 10 out of 10.
yeah, so no matter if you're a theater kid or not, you can enjoy Hamilton.
Yeah.
Be More Chill, it requires I'd say like I mean there's an entire song about play rehearsal and how good it is. It requires like a little I would say it's a 9.5, but it still requires because I very much like this musical. It requires a little bit of like theater kid knowledge.
Okay, so maybe more importantly, how does it compare to Heathers?
How does it compare to Heathers? I'd put them on the same thing, except they're both based off of something. Be More Chill, a book, and Heathers, the movie.
Should I read the book?
No.
Have you read the book?
No, the book is not actually great. So no one recommends you read the book, like ever.
I bet the guy that wrote it probably thinks you should read it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say nobody.
Well, nobody.
And his
The
mom.
his mom. The fandom doesn't. I don't know if he's actually. I don't know. It's kind of an old book, but the fandom doesn't like the book very
Okay.
much because
All right.
Michael in the book is terrible and we all
Okay.
hate him.
All right.
Anyway, Michael in the Heathers. They're both based off of something. Heathers requires to enjoy the musical fully, knowledge of the movie.
Oh, interesting.
So,
Okay.
Like I put them on the same like. It's like there's this post about rating things like with different like about anime.
Yeah.
So like how much anime knowledge do you need? How good of it, how
interesting.
how much fan service
Right.
and how bad is it?
Right.
So I'd say you need to know Hamilton can be enjoyed by anyone ever. But
So Be More Chill is a little bit of like a musical about musicals. So there's like some inside.
I mean, the main character and a lot of the scenes take place at like play rehearsal because
okay.
one of the final songs is the play,
Yeah.
so it's sort of leading up to the
Oh,
play.
interesting.
And
Okay.
even though there's drama about like nanotechnology getting
Yeah.
in your brain,
Yeah.
the play is one of the big events in the musical.
Okay.
So you
I'll
need
check
to
it
know
out.
about plays and you need to know some tropes and stuff to get into it.
like theater tropes
Yeah.
specifically.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it sort of does play off of a few of those things.
Okay. I'm
And
looking
then-
forward to it.
Yeah, and then there's the one Matilda, which is also like a bigger musical.
The musical we saw
The
in
musical
London.
we saw in
Yeah.
London.
Yeah.
And I'd say that one is like compares to that one. They're actually like the music the music of the thing actually is kind of similar in a way.
Oh, interesting.
Because I think it is a lot of Be More Chill is playing off. Well, Heather's is playing off of the movie.
Okay.
Be More Chill.
Let's
is playing
save the
off
rest of
other
this for
musicals.
2 weeks from now
Anyways,
when we're actually
I'm
talking
sorry, I need
about
to
Be
talk
More
about
Chill.
Be More Chill. It's
All right,
really
so
good.
I will listen to Be More Chill. I'll do some fan art.
You'll do some fan art?
I will view some fan art. Maybe I'll draw some fan art.
I drew Michael.
And then I will I'll look and make sure I understand what the story is and what's happening because Hamilton was very different seeing Hamilton than like hearing
and
hearing
I really
Hamilton.
want to see Be More Chill,
Yeah, yeah.
but I don't think
I don't think it's
you
out there
can't
anymore.
do it anymore.
Yeah, so we'll figure it out. Okay, so Be More Chill. If you want to be involved in the podcast 2 weeks from now, then
Watch it.
Watch Be More Chill
Listen to it,
and
I
let
mean.
us know what your thoughts are. Or listen to it. Yeah, yeah. Sorry.
Listen to Be More
it.
Chill.
Let us know what your thoughts are.
Let us know about Be More
Do
Chill.
some-
I'm
do
sure
some
a lot
fan
of,
art.
Yes, do some fan art. We're hosting that now. That's the new bit. Everyone must do fan art.
Sweet.
Anyways,
All right.
thank you guys so much for listening. If you're watching through YouTube, then make sure to press the subscribe button because I'm just used to saying that, and also because you should subscribe to us, please. And yeah, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Bye.
Until then.
Until then, bear with us.